Hey, Roger 2A here with another episode of the Roundup series where I talk about multiple things in regards to the Second Amendment. I don't go into great detail, but rather I just big picture it, more intended for those who maybe don't have a lot of time on their hands, but still want to stay informed about the Second Amendment. This kind of allows them to be able to, you know a little bit about what's going on, and then if it applies to them, they can look more into it on their own. So yeah, that's what I do here on the roundup. So getting right into it. Okay, so this first section is just going to be a little update. Okay, obviously I was covering the 2022 midterm elections. As we know, Georgia went into runoff, as Georgia often does. Anyway, the update is Raphael Warnock, Democrat, did beat out Herschel Walker, Republican. So, we pretty much already knew that was going to happen. Democrats always win runoff elections. That's just usually how it goes, unfortunately. So, not much to talk about. It's pretty much just, what we already thought would happen is confirmed. So, yes, it is now confirmed that the Democrats do have control of the U.S. Senate. But again, we pretty much already knew that. So, I'm not going to talk any more about that. Just a quick update. I think we're done talking about the election now with that. So, gonna get on to the next topic. Okay, now for our weekly update on Oregon Ballot Measure 114. Okay, Ballot Measure 114 in Oregon. Horrible gun control, magazine ban, permit to purchase, training requirements, enhanced background checks. So as I've been updating, this is obviously being challenged. There's multiple lawsuits against this. What we're talking about and what we have been talking about is Gun Owners of America's case. The other cases are going nowhere at this time. But in the Gun Owners of America case, there has been tons of movement, okay? They filed this in state court, okay? So this is in Harney County, Oregon, okay? The judge is Robert Rascio, not really sure, something like that. So basically what the judge said, as I updated last week, he had issued a temporary restraining order against ballot measure 114 as a whole. It was not able to go into effect on schedule. That was great, right? So the temporary restraining order was good until the 13th, which was Tuesday, in where they had another hearing. In that hearing, the judge did extend the temporary restraining order again. Now, at this time, ballot measure 114 is starting to be broken up, okay? So rather than just measure 114 as a whole, all this gun control, it's starting to be broke up into the magazine ban portion, the permit to purchase portion, and the extended background check portion. Starting to break it up, okay? So I'll go through those three issues one at a time, okay? So first of all, the magazine ban, I think that's most people's main concern, even though it should be the permit to purchase. In the magazine ban has been found unconstitutional yesterday. So as of now, that is not going into effect. It has been found unconstitutional, which is good, obviously. But obviously all this is developing, so you got to still keep an eye on it. That is not, it's not dead. It's not going into effect yet. It's currently found unconstitutional. Now, the permit to purchase, the temporary restraining order against that portion has been extended indefinitely until the state has the permitting process, okay? Because this permitting process that they want to enact under 114 doesn't exist, okay? So if it were to go into effect now, you would have the same situation that was in New York under the new CCIA law, in where they're basically saying like, oh yeah, you can have the permit when it exists, is basically what Oregon would be telling people. So basically, to make a long story short, people would be delayed indefinitely until Oregon gets around to actually creating this permitting process, which is obviously not acceptable because, as we know, a right delayed is a right denied. So, this judge took care of that by extending the temporary restraining order indefinitely until the state has created this requirements, or this permitting process, rather. They seem to think they're going to have it done in a month or two. I say minimum 3 months, but probably longer because they have no money for this, no funding set aside at all. There's still multiple county sheriffs saying, no, we don't want to enforce this. We don't want to do this. We don't have the manpower to do this. Because you got to keep in mind, Oregon, a state which has defunded their police, now want their police to do all this for them. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, which is also good. So, last but not least, the extended background check portion. Arguments for that are going to be heard on December 23rd of this year, and the ruling is going to be on January 3rd of next year. So those are some dates to keep an eye on in regards to the extended background checks. It's hard to say what's going to happen. Basically, what they're going after in that portion is, currently the way the laws are is if a background check is submitted, if that background check is not completed within 3 days, the person can take the firearm anyways. They basically want to close that to where you have to wait until the background check is completed, however long that may be, to receive your firearm, which is, again, a right delayed, a right denied, like not really acceptable. They basically want to allow you to suffer because the government isn't doing their job effectively. To break it down really simply, is essentially what that does. So that's worth keeping an eye on. Obviously, all this is, those are the updates for now. There may not be any updates next week, but there may be, so we'll see. That's it for now. So there's a lot more details in regards to this, but I've been talking for like almost 7 minutes in a roundup segment. So I'm going to move on to the next topic right now. Okay, now, this information comes from the Reload, okay? So, the CDC, okay, they had done research around self-defense firearm uses, okay? And based on that, they were able to come up with an estimated number of cases in where somebody used a firearm for self-defense. And that's on the CDC's website. Great, as the CDC does all kinds of things similar to that, right? No, nothing out of the ordinary or anything like that for the CDC. Well, the Reload has uncovered that a group of anti-gunners have pressured the CDC into deleting that study from their site, which they did, because those numbers are bad for gun control. Okay, it makes it too hard to push gun control when the CDC is saying that many people actually use guns for self-defense. Okay, it goes against their narrative, right? So they pressured the CDC into taking that down. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that the CDC's estimation was right, because I don't know, okay? The CDC lost my trust in 2020, but that's neither here nor there. it was probably a fairer estimate than what this anti-gun group is looking to, you know, the information this anti-gun group is wanting people to look at. Because what they want people to be seeing instead are so-called statistics, okay, false statistics based on media reports. Okay, so this kind of comes back into that FBI situation. I don't remember if I talked about that or not, but tons of people did. You probably heard about it, in where the FBI was, they were reporting on self-defensive firearm uses, but they were using statistics based on media reports. Okay, that is what this anti-gun group wants the CDC to be doing. Um, the problem with that is that most media is anti-gun, and therefore they don't usually report on, good guy with the gun type of scenarios. So this is being based on that those statistics are drastically underreported around self-defensive firearm uses. Okay, so this is basically, to make it simple, propaganda. Okay, that fits the definition. This is propaganda. Okay, so this is really disgusting to see. It doesn't surprise me. It's unfortunate that the CDC has decided to do this. But again, it doesn't surprise me. It is what it is. But we got to keep this in mind as we go about our daily lives and when we hear about gun control and whatnot. Most things are probably based on false statistics. So these are really good things to keep an eye on, because they'll get you, right? These things will get you, because a lot of people don't argue with stats, but these aren't real stats. Okay, so again, keep it in mind. That's really all I have to say about that. You can check out that article on Reload if you want. I would recommend it. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so last but not least, a ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, sent a letter to the ATF, Director Steve Duddleback, basically urging them not to destroy evidence regarding Operation Fast and Furious. Okay, so the ATF wants to destroy evidence around Operation Fast and Furious, some firearms that were recovered. Okay, to back it up a little bit, if you don't know what Operation Fast and Furious was, you should look into that. It's absolutely disgusting. Basically, it was a failed operation from the Obama-Biden administration with the ATF, in where they basically allowed firearms dealers to sell guns to suspected straw purchasers with the intention to track those firearms and see where they end up. Well, they lost track of many of those guns. They basically lost them, and many of those were used in crime in the U.S. as well as Mexico by the cartel. A U.S. Border Patrol agent was even killed by some of these firearms. So, absolutely a failed operation. There's much more details than that. But basically, as Jim Jordan says in this letter, he talks about the crimes that these firearms were used in, including the murder of the Border Patrol agent. He calls this a botched operation, which absolutely. But the point is, much of these investigations around this are still ongoing. So why are you going to destroy evidence regarding an investigation that is still ongoing? Shouldn't be doing that. And that's basically the point of this letter, is that, don't. Basically, what he says is, I urge you to immediately take steps in preserving this evidence and provide in writing that you have done so. And that's the point, of this letter. Don't destroy this evidence, is basically, to put it simply. So this is a great letter. It's like one page. I would encourage you to read it. Jim Jordan has been calling people out lately. Super good letters, which is great. So that's gonna be it for that. Okay, so this has been the weekly roundup. Um, I hope you got something from this information that applies to you, or something that you maybe didn't know before. Hope you learned something. That's the point. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, and goodbye.